Well, hello. Welcome to Send a Rope TV. I wanted to take a little time today to explain how the law works. Now, granted, my understanding is not as broad as somebody who's a lawyer or a judge, but I think I have a pretty good understanding of how it works, and for surely I have an understanding of how it's supposed to work. But I want to give a little background here, how it's kind of structured in the order of things. First, we have the people. They're the foundation of all the law in our country. Well, actually, it's God, then the people. But the people write the Constitution, and the Constitution says, okay, listen up. You politicians who are sending up to Washington, here's your limitations. Here's what you can do. And we're not going to tell you what you can't do, because all we're telling you is what you can do. You're not allowed to do what you can't do. Everything that doesn't say what you can do, you can't do. That's, if you want to read, that's what the 10th Amendment was all about. All rights not expressly listed here are reserved for the states. And then the states had a similar setup. But so we have then the three parts of our government, the branches. We have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial, all meant to be a checks and balances on one another. The legislative branch of government legislates, makes laws. The executive branch takes those laws and says, yes, I agree with this, and they sign it, and then it is put into force. Then if there's issues, we, the people, can then go before the judiciary and say, this is going against the Constitution, this is going against X, Y, Z, whatever. Now, the judicial, unfortunately, doesn't always use common sense. For example, let's look at the Second Amendment. It says, shall not be infringed. Now, I don't even need a Webster's dictionary to understand what shall not be infringed means. But they apparently have had trouble with this since the mid-30s. Oh, wasn't that around the time of Hitler and communism? Let's use abortion as an example. It used to be illegal. The legislators said it's illegal. And in my opinion, I think it should be. But so the legislative branch says abortion is illegal. The executive then executes that law. They arrest people, arrest doctors, blah, 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 blah. But then someone wants to fight against this. And so they go before the court. And the court says, yeah, you can't, it's not illegal. You can't make it illegal. Well, then we have a problem. Because now there's all this law, there's actual statutes and codes that are not in conformity with the judicial system. Now, are we the people meant to be lawyers and judges to go into a law library and read the massive volumes of judicial decisions to understand what the latest fad is in judicial activism? No, that was never the founders' intent, and that is not how the law works. If you look at any other law, let's continue using abortion as an example. If it was still illegal on the books, you would go again before the court. The court would issue a court order to the state, change this law, bring it into conformity with the judicial system, with the judicial rulings. And so over time, abortion became basically legal. The same is not the case with tax law. Now, my argument is there is no law that requires me to pay taxes. Now, do I mean there's no tax law? No, of course there's tax law. So Title 26. In fact, I'm posting the links in this video. Title 26, and I'll even put up some of the code itself. Now, no doubt when you went to your new job, you filled out a W-4. And on that W-4, at the bottom, you didn't really know what you're filling out. It said, refer to publication XYZ. So you went to publication XYZ, and it didn't really tell you a whole lot of it, and you have to do this. Okay, where's the law? Well, yeah, it's section 3402. It's at the bottom, tiny little, section 3402. Refer to this for more information. So let's look at section 3402 of the law that supposedly requires taxes to be taken out at the source. That's from your paycheck. Before they pay, or even cash, if they were paying you cash, before they pay you, they have to take that money out and send it on to the federal government. Or do they? Because the law actually says this, and income tax collected at source, section 3402. Looking at a part of the law here, we see that at the election of the employer with respect to an employee. Well, there's the big question. Who is an employer and who is an employee? Everything in the law is defined. There is a section called the definitions with the law. So let's go to the definitions now. If we go back, section 3401, that is the definitions for this specific chapter. Now, if we skip down to where it says section C, for the purposes of this chapter, the term employee includes an officer, employee, or elected official of the United States, a state or political subdivision thereof, or the District of Columbia, or any agency or instrumentality of any one or more of the foregoing. The term employee also includes an officer of a corporation. Is that you? Are you an employee? Are you an official of the government? Are you an officer of a corporation? Because I'm not. And I can pretty much guarantee that you're not either. Now we have a problem. Because the judiciary has had rulings that have said, well, you are an employee. It does apply to you. It does mean you. But that problem is that the law is not in conformity with those judicial rulings. Now, it is not my job to be a lawyer and go and have a 50-year education, because that's what you need if you want to read law. Is not my job to go to a law library and, oh, well, have they had any new rulings about this? No, it is the job of the legislature. The judiciary is supposed to go and bring these things to the legislature and say, fix it. So as far as the law is now, I am not an employee as defined with this section. Now let's look at another section of the law. This is the income tax itself, and more specifically the definitions for the entire Title 26. This is for the whole package, unless there's another set of definitions which defines things. If we look at Title 26, Subtitle F, Chapter 79, we can find the definitions for the title. And it says, when used in this title, that would be Title 26, where not otherwise distinctly expressed or manifestly incompatible with the intent thereof, that would be other definitions or inconsistencies. We look at this. Number one, person. The term person shall be construed to mean and include an individual, a trust, a state, partnership, association, company, or corporation. What do we see in common with those things? Well, they're all businesses. They're all business entities. A trust, an estate, a partnership, a company, an association, a corporation, all businesses. And then we've got individual thrown in there. That's very odd, because if we look down further in the law itself, in the definitions, to item number 30, we see the definition of a United States person. And one of those definitions is a citizen or resident of the United States. And so, but here's the interesting thing. What you find continually in the tax code is the words voluntary, your contribution, withholding, wages, and all these terms. But they're all clearly defined here as to what they mean. Now, I am not an employee, and I am a United States person, as listed here. So the question then is, who is that other person, that individual that it talks about? Could it be a sole proprietorship? Well, I don't know. It's intentionally vague, and it's intentionally, I believe, if you were able to look back at the history, been changed, or at least legally understood to be a sole proprietorship. But we don't have access to a lot of that stuff as citizens. All I can look at is the law. Now, if I am a United States person, where in the law am I a taxpayer? Because it says if I'm an individual, then I'm a taxpayer. But I can't be both of these. Because right at the very top it says, when used in this title, where not otherwise distinctly expressed or manifestly incompatible with. Well, I think it's very incompatible. Either I'm an individual or I'm a United States citizen. Now, if I'm not a United States citizen and I am a United States citizen, who is? Who's a United States citizen? So when we talk about the fact that there's no law, it's the fact that in the law, the statutes, the code, Title 26, not judicial rulings, not judicial decisions, the law, there isn't one that requires you and I to pay tax. Requires. There's lots of hints and allusions to the fact, but hints and allusions do not make law. We either are or we aren't a taxpayer. And judging by the law, I say we aren't.